Okay, brilliant. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Dover Joint Transportation Board. This isn't quite the meeting I was expecting us to be having today, but that said, let's make the very best use of our time and focus on being as effective as we can for the residents we represent. Before we begin, I'd like to note a couple of apologies. Okay. Could I apologise for someone who may not have apologised?
You can do, but I'll read out the ones I've been sent.
Okay, I'll let you go. I'll let you go first.
Yes, Chairman. So I've received apologies from councillors Martin Bates, Martin Hibbert, Jamie Pout, Daniel Parks, and Paul King. Oh, sorry, no, I haven't. Yes, I did receive apologies, but you're here, so yeah, that's it from me, Chairman.
It's our first joint.
Yeah.
So I'd like to apologise on behalf of Chris Burwash, who unfortunately potentially wasn't able to send his apologies, as he is currently driving through Ukraine on his way to deliver aid to a hospital there. I'm sure we all share our thoughts with him and wish him a safe and successful journey. I'd also like to mention that our highways manager, Tom Williams, is currently on emergency leave. I'm not aware personally of his circumstances, but I wish him all the best. Stepping in, we are very fortunate to have Toby Howe with us this evening, who will help as best as he can, and I'm sure he'll be amazing. Finally, just a quick note from me as chair: if we can all keep questions and comments concise and focused, it will help ensure everyone has the opportunity to contribute and that we make the most of our time this evening.
Sorry, can I just add that Councillor Albert Thorpe advised that he would be late. Yeah.
Have we got any substitute members?
We have. Councillor Stacey Blair is substituting for Councillor Jamie Pout.
Okay. Declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. Please, if you have any declarations of interest, make yourself known. The minutes. To confirm the attached minutes of the meeting of the committee held on the 12th of December 2024. Was anybody at that meeting? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, it's for, sorry, Chairman, just to advise that I would need a proposer and a seconder, and for the sake of getting through the business, whether you were there or not, it's something that just needs to be passed. And then just all those in favour. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so item 5 and item 6 are the fast track update and the bus service update. It was only recently we found out that the officers were unable to attend, but I've managed to get an update, which unfortunately you're going to have to put up with me reading for you. So did some of you receive these slides in the emails today? I know it was late notice and I apologise for that. Oh, brilliant! So you've got the hard copy.
I've got one, but I have to put a few around.
Yeah, so I've got 2 updates to read. Okay. Sorry, someone talking. I'll wait for them to finish.
Sorry, Keith and Tony. I think. Well, yeah.
Sorry, I thought you was trying to talk to me. No. Okay, brilliant. Okay. The graphs that are in front of you demonstrate strong performance and consistent growth from the service, which started from scratch less than 2 years ago, and contrast some of the local narrative that the services aren't well used. Whilst we are ahead of our forecast for growth, there is still some way to go. However, when you consider large sections on the route is driving through yet to be developed areas, we are in a really good place. It is more likely that new residents will use an established service when they move to the area. And that's when the real impact of fast track is felt, as those trips replace car journeys, particularly second and third car usage per household. That's from Shane. So fast track is averaging around 800 journeys a day, which is double the 400 we started with 18 months ago. Very strong growth and ahead of our forecasts. Electric launched in February with depot charging. Pantograph site at Dover Priory is undergoing some minor curb realignment work to make it easier to access for drivers. Contrary to local reports, the alignment is currently suitable for operation, but these minor improvements reflect feedback from South Eastern and Stagecoach about what conditions are like for turning buses when the area is busy, with buses during rail replacement operation. It is also worth noting that the location was changed to the opposite side of the station at the 11th hour at the request of the railway, which has meant all the design work has been retrospective. Expected to be fully operational this summer, although not actually required for the current phase of fast track, as depot charging covers the current mileage. Service is currently on a diversion on the old Whitfield estate due to ongoing parking issues at Cranley Drive. We are in the process of designing some new markings and possible curb realignments to make it easier for buses and cars to coexist. However, in the interim, I welcome support from colleagues at DDC to continue to send enforcement officers to the area to help keep cars from parking in our bus cages. KCC are working with English Heritage on creating a bus interchange at Dover Castle that will be sympathetic to the site and boost tourism access from the station and the town, enabling us to work with the town and South Eastern to promote a fully accessible end-to-end link from London, etc. The two plain white electric fast track buses are shortly to be painted/wrapped. One is going to carry a promotion for KCC libraries to get more people reading, and the second is going to be painted in a design winner from the Whitfield Aspin School, following a recent visit by ourselves and the road safety team. We have yet to choose the winning child's design and welcome volunteers for the judging panel to be held at the end of the month. The reason these buses need to be in neutral colours is that we don't need them on fast track until phase 2 of the service, so allow Stagecoach to use them on other local services too. However, we don't allow fast track branded vehicles on non-fast track routes. This saves them sitting around doing nothing and is a boost to other local services. Okay. I also, there we go. I also just want to make you aware that on the 28th, for anyone who doesn't know, on the 28th of April, there's the Dover Local Bus Forum, which is held at DDC, Dover District Council, in the Brave Room, or you can attend hybrid. So that's the 28th of April. I believe it's 1 p.m. Do you know if that's correct?
It's not a committee meeting, so I don't know.
It's not. Oh, that's okay. Right. So, but you know, I attended one before. They're very interesting, and you can learn a lot and get a lot of updates, and also give feedback there. So it might be worth other people attending. So yes, any member can attend. Well, as far as I'm aware, because we all received invites. Okay. Yeah. That's great. So any questions regarding fast track update or the bus service update are going to be forwarded on to Shane Heimers and also to the other Shane, which is Shane Bushell, which confuses me every time. So You're welcome to ask questions now, or you can forward them to Kate via email.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman, just to say, if you want to, if you can either put your questions now and or send them to me, and I'll forward them on to the KCC officers.
Okay. Good. I'm going to apologise. I don't have a seating plan. I don't know any of your names. I recognise some of you, of course. So
I'll go first then, Councillor Blair. Just 3 questions after reading through everything. Okay, so what was the target passenger number for Fast Track? And what would have been considered successful? Because obviously it said, you know, in your little blurb there that things were going well and it was higher than projected, but what would have been considered the successful number to be using it? And if there was a target in mind, how far are we off that currently? From what I read, there were issues around access at Tesco's. Were they resolved? What was the barrier to that? Was it engagement or design? And the third question, timetable alignment with rail. Has it been achieved or constrained by the operators and the operating costs? And that was it.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, we'll get them forward. Could we, sorry, I left my microphone on there. The way you've got the email set up that goes to everybody, could these questions go into that so that we can all read the responses?
Yeah.
Would that be great?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is it? Yes, sir.
Thank you. By way of introduction, Councillor Tony Menz, I'm from Langdon Parish Council. Only heard in conversation today, and it's a comparison between the Fast Track performance figures and the other bus services. Yes, we're heartened by those performance figures from the Fast Track, but today, and I haven't been able to confirm it, but a friend of mine who lives in Aythorne commented that he saw 2 people at the bus stop this morning in Aythorne waiting for the bus. They've recently lost their driving licenses, and now apparently there are only 3 buses a day and they only go to Tesco's. So there's a big imbalance across the area. That is just my comment.
Do you know what? It'd be great if you can come to the local bus forum on the 28th as well, so we can have these conversations with everybody. That'd be fantastic. Hello, sir.
Hello there, Chairman. I'm Councillor Cronk. With the Fast Track, Stagecoach have just had their upgrade to higher grade power. Does that make it easier for the buses to be charged and quicker so they can go back out onto service? And the other one, which the following councillors asked, is the people, what the targets are we hitting to sort of to do? And the third one is the have we got 2 buses on the route or 3 buses on the route? Are they putting 1 in for charge and 2 are running?
Okay, thank you. That's items 5 and 6. So the one we've all been looking forward to, which is the Operation Brock update with Toby Howe. I just want to say, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but how fantastic has Operation Brock been this Easter holidays? We haven't had any congestion so far, so just want to say well done to you guys, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So what I'll be doing is giving you an overall update as to why Brock is there, what it does, etc., but also go into a bit more depth about the overall traffic management that's being planned and the upcoming entry-exit system traffic management as well, to give you that overall picture. So I apologise as well straight off that if I'm teaching anyone to suck eggs, it's just easier if I just go into the full detail as well. So if you know all of this, I apologise. So Brock has been there since 2016, 2017, when it came in following all of the chaos that we had in 2015, when there were migrants coming through the Channel Tunnel and there were numerous ferry strikes. So National Highways, or Highways England as they were then, were tasked with finding an alternative to Operation Stack that we came to love or hate over many, many years. They initially proposed a huge lorry park just off junction 11 on the M20, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So then a temporary measure was designed called Operation Brock. The main differences between Brock and Stack was that Brock had a contraflow, so it enables all traffic to stay on the M20 when freight is being managed on the coastbound lane. With Stack, all coastbound traffic was diverted onto the A20 and numerous other roads to sort of get past that area. So Brock, whilst initially was intended to be a temporary measure, unfortunately there is no alternative at the moment. It is in place solely to manage the flow of freight, specifically heading down to Eurotunnel and more regularly down to the Port of Dover. So by holding freight in Brock, we minimise that huge flow that would otherwise gridlock Dover. So together with the buffer zone in the port, TAP on the A20 between Folkestone and Dover, and Brock when it's active with control, that freight flow can then be managed as it comes down the M20 to get to the Port of Dover. In addition to that, as I say, we have TAP, which is instructed or requested rather by the Port of Dover as and when the buffer zone is about to fill. And the purpose of TAP when it was initiated was to stop freight queuing through the A20 and blocking junctions such as Snargate Street, York Street, etc. And that generally is successful when TAP is in place on its own. The problems then occur, of course, at holiday times when there are huge numbers of tourists heading down to Dover to go across to Europe. And at those times, the ferry companies prioritise the tourist traffic, and therefore we end up having to hold freight. Over Easter, we had TAP approaching about 80% on Good Friday, and we had approximately 400 trucks for both Eurotunnel and 400 trucks for Port of Dover held within Brock, because there had been delays at Eurotunnel blocking the M20. So Brock again did what it needed to, and Dover flowed well on that day. So moving on, we now have the entry-exit system to contend with as well, which commenced formally on the 12th of October last year, although it was a phased approach. So gradually over 6 months, from no traffic or people being processed through to 100% being processed. So EES is there implemented by the EU for anybody entering and exiting the EU countries and the Schengen countries more particularly that are non-EU nationals. So we are now third country nationals. So every time we enter Europe, we are measured. Not literally, of course, but our time there is measured. So we have to register when entering the EU, and again we are then clocked, so to speak, when we leave, because we are only allowed to stay within the EU for 90 days in every 180 days. The intention of EES is that they will measure and monitor your biometrics. So you would scan your face, your fingerprints and your passport the first time you use the system. And as you may have seen in the media, this is used at airports currently, and there have been a lot of problems with people leaving the EU after the Easter holidays, having huge queues. As you know, Port of Dover and Eurotunnel are juxtaposed, meaning that the French customs is done on this side of the channel. And currently, the technology doesn't work between the French systems and the EU systems. So therefore the biometrics are not being taken at the Port of Dover or Eurotunnel as yet. Port of Dover have set up Western Docks where this will be done. So currently all passport checks are done in Eastern Docks. When the biometrics are working, all traffic, i.e. cars and coaches, will use Western Docks. Coaches are currently using that, and that is working well. But until the biometrics come in, what is happening is that when you turn up at the French customs booths, the PAF booths, they have to enter a little bit of more information from your passport. They have to like click 3 buttons in effect on the console there. So that adds a bit of time. And the concerns that we've got now is that 100% of people travelling through the port, through the tunnel, will have to have that process, and it could add anything between 70 and 120 seconds per car. And if you think at busy times, the Port of Dover could have up to 10,000 cars going through in a day. If you multiply that, that is what we've now got to be planning for. So as you will have seen, when the Port of Dover becomes full, if there are then problems anywhere, if there is a slight delay, it takes very little for Dover to become gridlocked. Generally, the traffic management process works to manage that flow to the port. However, if the port is totally full and we still have cars pouring in from every direction, there is not a lot one can do to actually stop them. There are powers when Brock is in place to control the lorries. Legally, they have to use the M20 and A20 and can be held in Brock, and generally they're fairly obedient. Tourist cars, there are no such powers, and the description has been used that it's like herding cats. We all use our sat nav, and even if there's a diversion or signs, our sat nav says use this road, use the Oldcombe Valley, use York Street, use Folkestone Road, then that's where cars will come. So if the port is full of cars and more pour in, that is when we still will see problems in Dover. What we are now preparing for, as I've said, is that 100%. So May half term and the summer, we are likely to see more delays because of that processing time. And we are currently planning for that. I was in a meeting with Kent Police, Port of Dover Eurotunnel, National Highways and the Department for Transport today to actually look at what we can be doing to make sure we mitigate that impact. So that is a very rapid summary from Brock through to EES of what we've got. And just to add to it, there will be a thing called ETIAS 6 months after EES. And ETIAS, which I have forgotten what it actually stands for, is going to be like ESTA when we go to the US, for example. So when that comes in, all third country nationals heading to the EU will have to get a visa, which will be about €17. And that will all be done online. So that won't add to the processing time. It just adds another thing to us. Eventually, there will be an app that we can use to speed that process up, because once you've registered the first time you go through, that lasts 3 years, but that's continuous. So if you go every year, that 3 years extends. The app will be useful for the next time you cross, because secondary times you cross, you won't necessarily need fingerprints. It might be just a face scan and a passport. So an app on a phone will enable you to do that. But at the moment, there is no such app available to us. So when that comes in, slowly that process will speed up. But in the interim, we are going to be expecting further delays each holiday time. So apologies for such gloomy news, but if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of questions. On Brock and TAP over the Easter period, how long was that in for and what was the costing?
I cannot comment on costing because it's National Highways that manage all of that, and they are funded by the Department for Transport. So Brock was in a week, in effect. it would have been in for less. It would have gone back in on the Saturday night, Easter Saturday, but because it was the bank holiday weekend, we didn't really want to be closing the motorway for the period to take it back in, so it didn't go back in until after the bank holiday. It was actually used in anger on Good Friday when we had all those problems, and that was the day we were expecting. So Brock now goes out as close to what we know as the red days, when we know there's likely to be the problem, and it's taken back in. But one thing I will add is that Brock is a system that's there because it needs to be. It's not there because National Highways want it, Kent Police want it, we want it.
No, I fully understand that.
We want all of the roads to be running free with good fluidity.
Excuse me, Chairman, and with this EES thing, we seem to be having delays after delays and everything. I would have thought they would have had previously had the two computers talking to each other a long time ago, so they could iron all these problems out. So when they put it live for Easter, it could have worked.
I 100% agree that one would logically test all systems before you implement something. And I think that was part of the delays. It was due to initially have come in about 2023, 24, but then they delayed it and they delayed it. And in the end, they got to the point saying, we've got to bring it in. So, but yes, logic would define exactly what you said.
Just one comment, Chairman. Lucky they don't work for NASA, then, isn't it?
Biggs.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it might be quite useful if you could explain in when obviously with the whole EES how it works in relation to passenger traffic and commercial traffic, because my understanding is the flow that will be that the cars will have to go contrary to the commercial traffic in terms of operating and doing that. So perhaps you could explain how those two systems relate and where the potential problems might be.
So freight, about 85% of freight that travel through the port are EU registered. So hence there are very few problems there. They are processed and always will be at the PAF booths in Eastern Docks. So when the biometrics come in, all car traffic, as I say, will have to go into Western Docks. And what will happen, so with freight, they in fact have a terminal that they'll pull up to do their various bits out from the cab, drive through, and that's the 15% that are non-EU. Car traffic, if they are non-EU, when it's all functioning, they will pull into Western Docks where there are huts in effect that they will pull up to. Everybody has to get out of the car, has to go up to a kiosk, do all of the scanning, get in their car, continue through to Eastern Docks. And one of the issues that we had initially was getting approval from the Ministry of Interior in France to have that gap between Western Docks and Eastern Docks. So what has been approved finally is that PAF can operate at Western Docks, and Port of Dover then monitor the time taken for traffic to get to Eastern Docks. So if, for example, someone suddenly takes 10 minutes between the two, they'll have either stopped at the new McDonald's or they will have stopped to do something that they should have done. So PAF could then possibly reject them.
Yes, thanks for that. I mean, that whole process of passenger traffic coming from one end to the other with there's a very narrow positions we've got at the moment. Seems like a disaster waiting to happen when that happens. But I guess you'll probably concur with that. Just one other question for you. I mean, I think we're all aware that the road network feeding to the port is under a terrific strain. And when we look at the Port of Dover with their 2050 plans and their expansion, we can only see that issue getting worse. And I think we're also all aware that for a long time we've been all talking about dualling the A2 to make a big difference. And I don't know whether you can comment on this, but my understanding that's always been in the road investment strategy, either in RSI 3 or 4. Well, my understanding at the moment that's completely been taken off the table, and it's not in there at all. for dualling the A2, and I think that's quite a recent development. So I don't know whether you can comment on that.
Not the detail, I'm afraid, but I can say that we as Kent County Council are putting as much pressure onto National Highways and Department for Transport more specifically to get that to happen, basically, because especially when the Lower Thames crossing opens, more traffic will naturally join the A2, M2 and come down that route. So it is very disappointing that it's always been missed so far, and even worse if it is now deleted. And one of the reasons it's always been missed is that the procedure for the RIS process had to meet certain criteria, and unfortunately feeding the whole of the UK's traffic to Europe didn't meet that criteria, which is why it never met the need to actually be included. But I am hopeful that there is a new person at DFT that I think will be involved, that we will be able to pester a lot more to try and get things moving.
Hello, Toby. How are you? Thank you for your presentation there. And first of all, I feel I ought to compliment you on and your team on local firefighting with traffic. And I firmly believe that this is a bigger thing than the county. We suffer from it. This really needs to be kicked back to the Department of Transport. At the moment, they seem to be quite content that the temporary arrangements hold fast and you keep going with them. It's entirely unsatisfactory. I don't know how many more decades it's going to go on for, but just to cite examples of wasted effort by the Department of Transport, the A14 in Cambridge, wonderful set of roads built to serve the port of Felixstowe and Harwich, all of which has now got reduced road traffic because of the funneling effect of all the traffic down into this area. So I think somehow we need to kick this one right back to central government. And the other thing, of a word of warning, the next crossing for Dartford is only going to make matters worse in this part of the country. So, sorry, my statements are born out of a lot of frustration and also a lot of forecasting when the Channel Tunnel bill went through Parliament, because I consulted with both houses on it and I forecast exactly what was going to happen, and it has. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Nice to see you. I totally agree with your comments about moving things forward. And in fact, we are working, Kent County Council are working very closely with the Department for Transport on their Kent Resilience Strategy. So it's looking at what can come next after Brock. Ultimately, the aim is to bring in technology to manage that flow of freight from the rest of the country. So whether they're then instructed to stop at various truck stop service stations and only come down when there is space. That is not going to happen this year, next year, or probably the year after, unfortunately. But there is a team within DFT that are dedicated to that work, and as I say, at Kent County Council Highways, we are working with them to keep pushing that along to make sure government do play their part. The big difference between when we had Stack in 2015 and what we're seeing these days is that in 2015 government considered it a Kent problem. We saw no input from Home Office, Department of Transport or whatever. It was just the emergency services and Kent County Council in Kent to try and sort it. Whereas we are now getting a lot of close work with Home Office and Department for Transport to really keep things moving.
Councillor Collar.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Toby. Long time no see. Just picking up on first, if I may, on one of the points you just made. When Brock comes in, I notice all the media interview all the people saying it's rubbish from Ashford and Maidstone. That's got to stop. I know you can't do anything about it, but perhaps some of the things you can do, because I'm still lobbying hard here but I've got a few numbers and I'm saying the piece. Anyway, an old thing which you and I must have been working on this for 15 or 20 years, Toby. The A2. Traffic coming down the A2 still. How are you going to stop it? And when EES is in, anything coming down the A2 has got to go twice up Snargate Street and back again. What are you going to do about that? And I'll leave it at that at the moment, I think.
Thank you, Nigel. Firstly, yes, most of the complaints we receive are people that drive between Maidstone and Ashford, live in that vicinity and do not see the benefits of why Brock is there. We are slowly educating MPs and councillors. For example, when Reform came to power, their goal was to get rid of Brock, apparently. So we had to educate the current Highways and Transportation Cabinet member and take him through Brock and Dover on one of the busiest days to understand why it was there. And he is a convert now and supports, which is excellent. But as you say, all of those people that use the M20 for that section think it's a total inconvenience. They drive past, there's no lorries in it, etc., etc., etc. So it is a slow education process. And what is quite galling is when people just instantly quote a figure that they have received, that it cost X much and uses this and no benefit. What is never costed is if Brock and Tap were not there, what would the economical cost be on Dover, Folkestone, Hawkinge, etc. if Brock was not there? If those towns were totally gridlocked for that period, what would that cost be? And nobody has ever costed those to compare. It's easy to give a figure of what Brock costs, but nobody has that to compare. So it would be really useful to start building that, to actually throw back and say, look, if it weren't there, this would be the cost. With the A2, yes, a lot more traffic will be coming down there. With freight, we have a permitting process within Brock. So the theory being, if they arrive at Dover, they cannot get into the port. When all of that traffic management is placed, any freight that comes down the A2, it's sent back along the A20, in theory to go to the back of Tap, but it'll join at some other point. If it then reaches a cliff roundabout with no permit, it will not be let through again and be sent back. Of course, that's a great theory and isn't always that practical, because you'll get a truck that decides to stop on the roundabout and refuse, and that doesn't cause. But what we've seen since we brought the permitting in is that compliance has worked. We've got an alternative that we try not to use, that if we do find a lot of freight starting to come down the A2, we put traffic management at Brenley Corner and they're turned back onto the M2. And why Brenley Corner? It's because it's the only place we can safely turn them back that's controlled. If we let them go beyond that, they'll come down Liddon Hill, they'll go down Whitfield Hill, etc. There are loads of other places they can escape. But we try not to put that on, because all we then do is move the problem to Faversham and all that area. But since the permitting, we have seen improvement.
Can I just come back on that, Chairman? Toby, you said you said we've never seen it that bad. We have. When Macron shut his borders, we were gridlocked for 3 days. I had the same lorry trailer outside my house for 3 days. I've got to know the driver. But so we have had it, and it should be able to be costed. Thank you, Chairman.
And I hope you made them plenty of cups of tea.
Water.
Councillor Back.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to give you my name. As somebody's brought up the problems and the fact that the A2 is going to be dualled, it won't make a difference. We've argued for years and years. You're going to hit Whitfield roundabout. Whatever you do to that roundabout, you're taking hundreds of thousands of pounds in 106 payments. Won't make a difference because there's 5 fingers on it. It's a cheap option instead of going across from Coldred, dedicated road, down to the docks for all dock traffic. It's just a simple, cheap option to say, oh, we'll deal the A2. And when you get to the Guston Bridge, there's a bridge that won't take a deal, so you're going to have to take all the Guston Road up, etc. Just a second comment about the biometric system. It's just a comment, really. Why didn't we speak to France and get the same system as them? Because it clearly isn't the same system if ours is not working and theirs is. Bit simplistic, I know, but.
Firstly, on the A2 dualling, when a couple of years ago we were involved in the National Highways were actually a bit closer to trying to push it through, and the approved route that we came to was going to totally miss Whitfield roundabout as well, as you say. So it was going to come in further on, pretty much, I think, to join about where the A256 comes in, that sort of area. So it would miss and would improve, therefore, Whitfield roundabout. That was the plan, because exactly what you've just said, it would be just a false economy. All you're doing is moving the bottleneck. So that was what our preference as Kent County Council was, to go back to them. And it would also give us the benefit that they could possibly build in another tap on that route as well then, as it came down, that you could then safely hold anything coming down once Lower Thames Crossing. With regard to the technology, it is French technology that is over this side. So the systems that are in place are the same systems that it's a French company called Thales that have then supplied them. So I believe it's from the French systems to the EU system that's the problem, and it is the French systems that are here, and it's the same problem over in Coquelles and Calais as well.
I banged this drum for 25 years now, about a bypass for Whitfield, and we've looked at it as Nigel is aware. That has always been seen as a possibility, and I've pushed it and pushed it at every opportunity, because my own view is that dualling the A2 won't solve anything really, because you have to bypass Whitfield roundabout, and the 256 is the ideal way to go. Is a Whitfield bypass still mentioned at any time, or has it been brushed under the carpet? Because, as Toby has said before, and Tony, when the Lower Thames crossing, the new crossing, comes operational, the amount of traffic and the effect on this corner is going to be colossal, and I don't think that anyone or everybody realises, get out and about as I do in the local area as area committee chairman, people don't seem to realise that it's going to affect them. And we've also got the situation where there's only one cross-county road from the main road from the M20 and the M2, the 249. Comments, Toby, is there any chance of this to be considered? Because as Whitfield develops, and I've never been able to get any costings on this to play the dualling the A2 off against a bypass, but as Whitfield develops, there will be a colossal amount of cash available. Where is it all going to be used? Is it going to be wasted on things that aren't necessary? Comments?
Yes, as I said, I mean, our preference from Kent County Council is that the dualling includes that bypass, certainly, and that's what we will continue to pursue. What will happen to all the 106 money, I'm afraid I cannot comment on.
Good stuff. Thank you. Thanks, Toby. Okay, last item number 8, which is the Highway Works Forward Works Programme 24, 25, 25, 26, pages 10 to 26. Tom Williams, Dover Highway Manager, is on emergency leave. Toby is going to step in as much as possible, but anything that can't be answered right now, again, we'll if Kate wouldn't mind, we'll forward the emails into our joint email and we can see the questions and the answers together. Thank you. Take it, everyone's read the report. I will just have to apologise. I'm getting used to wearing glasses, and when I take them off, I can't see again. So I'm now a bit blind. Okay. So we're to consider the attached report, and now we can take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. For the last few weeks, and this is more of a comment about roadworks in general, and I note that Tom Williams is not here today to answer that. Solar farm at Chalk Pit on the A258. There was a road closure order. In the last few weeks since it started, the contractors put some unauthorised signs on the A258 on both grass verges. The contractors have been informed repeatedly to remove them. And I would like to know really what is the role of the highways inspectors to make sure that these infringements do not happen in future.
So yes, anything that is unauthorised, if it's an illegal sign, etc., we will notify the owner, the developer, the contractor or whatever to have those removed. They can be fined for that. At times, if it is practical, our teams, our stewards, our inspectors would remove them themselves. Ultimately, they've got to put their own safety first. So if it is on a fast section of road, whatever, they're not going to necessarily stop to do that. But the first mission, as you mentioned, is always to request the contractor developer to remove them. And ultimately, as I say, they can be fined. But it is a problem that we have county-wide to actually then enforce due to sort of the staff numbers out there. But I will take this one back and actually get a specific answer for you on this site.
Also, if I may, the statutory 50-mile-an-hour reminders, repeaters on that road have also been obscured with black plastic bags. Persons unknown. I suspect I know who they are, but by the same token, they've obstructed statutory signs. I just want it noted in this board. Thank you.
Councillor Collar.
Thank you, Chairman. In the list of schemes, I don't see Dewstone Lane in Dover. Now, you will remember, and I think your colleague sitting in front of me will remember, I sent you a photograph of some massive poles in Dewstone Lane. Half of them have been done, half of them haven't. Do you know any reason why?
I can make an assumption only rather than knowing the specifics. It's the class. This sounds very pedantic, but ultimately it's the classification of a pothole. So due to funding, etc., we cannot fill every defect on the highway because the money would run out even faster than it does. So they have to prioritise those ones that meet a criteria that are dangerous. In an ideal world, if we're in an area doing one bit, we would do the whole of that bit. But again, if everybody on every road in every district within the county did that, again, that money would go.
These are definitely potholes. So I've been in this game long enough to know what's a pothole and what's a surface breakup.
So ultimately, yes, don't disrespect Nigel, but your definition of a pothole might differ from what the legal definition is. So it's semantics, I know, but what I will do is I will pick that up with the Dover team. Okay. So is that Dewstone as in DEW or?
No, DIEU.
DOEU.
Yeah, just round the corner from my.
Oh, DIE. Oh, as in Maison Dieu. Right, I will pick that one up with the Dover team and I will get a response back to you on the specifics.
Thanks, Tom.
Councillor Beck.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm speaking now as a Whitfield councillor, and there's a road called Knapchester Road that runs from Sandwich Road to the Bollards. It's not as long as it used to be. I've had to get cabinet member involved, including Councillor King, who's very kindly came down to look at the road. And I complained to Thomas Williams for 3 years, and it was almost a year. I didn't get any responses from any of my emails. One engineer was sent down in the very beginning, and he reported back to Thomas that it was an uncomfortable drive. And on the second visit, they sent another engineer down who said the road could have had a light resurface. Now, then I complained, as I say, to the cabinet member, and I think I sent an email to Councillor King and others, and all of a sudden there's 14 potholes, irrespective of the depth. All of a sudden they did 2 at the top, nothing else, and then about 3 weeks later they did another 2 down the bottom. But it's not just that, it's bad repairs, old bad repairs. And I did report to them that an elderly lady had tripped on one of these shallow potholes, so they are as dangerous as a deep one to a pedestrian. And there's plenty of old or elderly people that live down Knapchester, and nothing's been done since. I mean, it's just the fact that I kept on for 3 years and everybody was ignoring me. As I say, I got Councillor King actually came up and walked down, and I think he agreed that it wasn't brilliant. But if you're going, yes, they only fill potholes that are of a certain depth. But this elderly lady is not going to say, oh, I won't trip up on that one, I'll trip up on that one. It's just ridiculous. And my main point is it's not a long road. And every week I get emails from KCC with a list of all the roads that they're going to do. And I know for a fact some of those roads are dead ends. They're a lot shorter than Knapchester Road, and they're in a lot better condition. And I'm frustrated now because all we've got is 4 potholes that are being repaired. None of the old repairs have been done, and it's just a short road. And the engineer, his own engineer, I can't remember, he's Welsh, and he said that it needs resurfacing, but not a deep resurface. I think he was just saying that go over the top of it, make it more accessible.
So I will speak to Kieran, who is the Welsh engineer there, and find out. It may well be that they've put it forward to go into the surfacing programme, which again is sort of a very, very long programme, but I will again get some details and respond. And again, for those that are unaware, or those even that may be aware, on the 1st of May, we have a new contractor for the county. So we've had Amy in place for about the past, well, they took over from Enterprise, who started in 2011. Ringway will be starting on the 1st of May with a 14 to 21 year contract. So we hope that there will be a lot of lessons learned from sort of previous mistakes to progress better works. But I will take that specific of Knapchester Road up with Kieran and Tom.
It's good to hear that you're getting a new contractor, because of the 256, they've filled potholes there and they look like molehills. They've not even flattened them out. So you've got an upside down pothole, really.
So just learned a lot about potholes over the last year. When you see them not flattened down properly, they're normally the emergency repairs, because the roads are crumbling worse than they ever have, really. The build up of emergency works is growing, so they're literally coming out with emergency repair just to make them safe. They don't require the same treatment, they don't get flattened down, but it is literally just there. Then they're added to the works program, which is, that list is getting longer and longer and longer, so they're not necessarily the proper repairs.
Okay, so is there a backlog of developer funded like highway works that have been approved but haven't yet been delivered? And if so, what's the timescale for bringing them forward?
That I'm afraid I cannot answer, but we'll take back.
Well, I don't need the glasses for this. That concludes the meeting. I would like to thank members, officers and all those watching the meeting online. Please could I ask Democratic Services to end the meeting, broadcast and confirm when this has been done.